I wish I can take a magic pill, put on shorts, and go out and play the game of basketball today, because that's who I am. That's that type of competition, that type of competitiveness is.
He is the most iconic name ever to touch a basketball. A symbol so powerful that his shadow alone became a logo, a brand, a global identity. People talk about Michael Jordan like he was born invincible, like the world simply handed him greatness as if it was his birthright. They talk about the championships, the game winners, the trophies, the gold medals, the posters, the shoes. They talk about perfection, superhuman talent, destiny. But the truth, the real truth, is darker, heavier, messier, and far more human than anything the world has ever seen on a highlight reel. Because greatness, the kind that rewires a sport, the kind that defines an era, the kind that echoes across continents, does not come from talent alone. It comes from pain, from rejection, from loss that shatters your spirit, from pressure so violent it almost destroys you, from rumors that stain your name, from critics who want you to fall, from inner battles so fierce they can break even the strongest man alive. And this is the Michael Jordan story you have never heard. The dark side. The dangerous side. The side where heroes bleed and legends nearly fall apart. The side that proves one thing: greatness is never clean. Michael Jordan did not begin his life as a superstar. He began as a kid from Wilmington, North Carolina, in a home filled with love, strict discipline, and silent expectations. His father, James Jordan, was not just a parent, he was a mentor, a guide, a builder of character. His mother, Dolores, was the force who refused to let her children grow soft. Their home was structured to like a training ground: chores done on time, schoolwork completed without excuses, responsibilities carried with seriousness. Inside that house, Jordan learned that nothing, absolutely nothing, was ever given. Everything had to be earned. But even in a home full of support, little Michael was not the golden child. He wasn't the tallest. He wasn't the strongest. He wasn't the most naturally gifted. In fact, the Jordan who would later dominate the world was once just a skinny kid who cried in his room because he felt too small, too ordinary, too overlooked. And then came the moment that would define him, the moment that would to ignite a fire so dangerous and powerful it would burn for decades. Jordan walked to the varsity list at Laney High School with hope in his chest, excitement in his breath, and a dream in his eyes. But when he reached the wall and searched for his name, it wasn't there. Cut. Rejected. Not good enough. Not tall enough. Not ready. The humiliation hit him so hard he locked himself in his room and cried until his eyes hurt. The boy who would one day become the greatest basketball player in history couldn't even make his high school varsity team. And yet, that moment didn't destroy him. It rebuilt him. Because someone else might have quit. Someone else might have accepted the judgment. But Michael Jordan took that rejection and turned it into a vow: no one will ever outwork me again. That moment, right there, was when the legend was born. Not in a championship. Not in an NBA arena. But in heartbreak. What followed wasn't magic. It was madness. Jordan trained until his legs burned. He practiced until his fingers ached. He pushed himself past exhaustion, past comfort, past reason. Every missed shot became fuel. Every failure became motivation. Every doubt became a voice he wanted to silence. By the time he reached college, he wasn't just talented, he was terrifying. He joined the University of North Carolina under legendary coach Dean Smith, a man known for discipline, humility, and absolute focus. Smith didn't treat Jordan like a star. He treated him like a student, because in Smith's world, ego meant nothing. Teamwork meant everything. Jordan learned patience, control, structure. But even under that system, his greatness kept leaking out in flashes, fast breaks, mid-air twists, sharp steals, impossible finishes. And then came the moment that lifted him from promising talent to national spotlight, the 1982 NCAA championship, where he hit the game-winning shot as a freshman. That single shot changed the trajectory of his life. It told the world, this kid is different. This kid is coming. When he entered the NBA in 1984 as the third overall pick by the Chicago Bulls, no one, absolutely no one, could have predicted what was about to happen. The league was dominated by giants, Magic, Bird, Dr. J. The Bulls were a broken franchise with empty seats and losing records. But Jordan walked in and played like someone had lit dynamite under his feet. He didn't just play basketball. He attacked it. He flew when gravity said no. He scored when defenses tried to suffocate him. He dunked with rage. He moved like the court belonged to him. He brought electricity to a team that had none. He became Rookie of the Year. And with every game, every highlight, every impossible moment, fans around the country began to understand, the world was witnessing something they had never seen before. But greatness invites attention. Attention invites pressure. And pressure invites enemies. By the late 80s and early 90s, Jordan was no longer just a player, he was a global phenomenon. Nike turned him into a brand. The Air Jordan line exploded into a cultural wave that reshaped fashion, sports, and identity itself. Kids didn't just want to watch Jordan, they wanted to be Jordan. The NBA became a global language because of him. But behind the fame, behind the cameras and commercials, he was drowning in expectations. Every move was watched. Every mistake magnified. He couldn't fail. He couldn't rest. He couldn't break. The world demanded perfection from him. And perfection always comes at a price. The Bulls began winning. The championships came. The rings stacked. Jordan became feared. Not just respected, feared. Opponents talked about him like he was a myth. Coaches created entire game plans around stopping him. Teams built rosters just to survive him. The Detroit Pistons created the infamous Jordan rules, a defensive system built on one idea: hit him, hurt him, stop him mentally and physically. Every drive to the basket became a battle. Every shot came with contact. Yet the more they hit him, the stronger he became. The more they tried to break him, the more violently he rose. And once he finally broke through the Pistons and reached the finals, the dynasty began. 3 straight championships. A global explosion. A new definition of greatness, but then, everything shattered. In 1993, Jordan's father, the man who had been his hero, his anchor, his guide, was murdered. The news broke him in ways the world couldn't understand. This wasn't a loss. This was a wound that reached the deepest part of him. The man who taught him discipline, who encouraged him through rejection, who celebrated his victories, was suddenly gone. And the world expected Jordan to keep playing? To keep winning? To keep smiling for cameras? He couldn't. He walked away. The greatest player in the game retired in his prime. Reporters were stunned. Fans were devastated. Critics whispered. Rumors grew. And soon, the controversies exploded. The media began digging into Jordan's life. They talked about his gambling habits. They speculated whether he had off-court problems that contributed to his retirement. Some even suggested absurd conspiracies that the NBA secretly suspended him. None of it had proof. None of it had mercy. But it didn't matter. The world didn't care about his pain, they cared about the story. Jordan was no longer a human being to them. He was a headline. A target. A myth they wanted to dissect. And while the world debated him, Jordan walked away from the NBA and towards something unexpected: baseball. The dream his father always wanted for him. The dream he wanted to honor. People laughed at him. Mocked him. called him washed, confused, desperate. But Jordan didn't care. For once in his life, he wasn't chasing greatness. He was chasing peace. Yet the world wouldn't let him have it. The pressure returned. The cameras followed. Every strikeout became a joke. Every mistake became a headline. And slowly, painfully, Jordan realized, the game couldn't save him. The grief inside him was too heavy. The void too deep, but what people never understood was that baseball wasn't failure, it was refuge. It was the first time in a decade he could be Michael, not MJ. The first time he could breathe without a stadium expecting miracles. The first time he could cry without someone analyzing his tears. He woke up at 5 a.m. for batting practice, not to prove anything to critics, but to numb the ache in his chest. He rode crowded team buses through small towns because the silence felt safer than the spotlight. He stood in the outfield staring at the horizon because for a few seconds, he could imagine his father standing beside him again. Baseball wasn't an escape from pressure. It was an escape from pain. But grief is a stubborn enemy. Even in the quiet of minor league dugouts, it followed him. In the shape of his father's memory. In the echo of his voice. In the reminder that the person who believed in him the most was gone. And no swing, no sprint, no training session could fill the emptiness left behind. The world wanted Jordan to fail, because the world didn't know how to handle a vulnerable God. They didn't expect him to hurt. They didn't expect him to bleed. They didn't expect him to break. But he did. And in that breaking, the man who carried an entire sport on his shoulders finally realized something terrifying. Even legends cannot outrun their own hearts. Every joke at his expense cut deeper than anyone knew. Every cruel headline pushed him further into a darkness he didn't have words for. And eventually, Jordan found himself standing in a place no applause could reach, no victory could fix. A place where greatness meant nothing. A place where he was simply lost, and it was in that lostness, raw, painful, human, that the seeds of his rebirth were planted. Then one day, after months of silence, he returned to basketball with two words that shook the world: I'm back. No announcement. No interviews. Just two words. And the legend rose again. But this time, he wasn't the same. He was older. He was grieving. He was battling ghosts the world couldn't see. And still, he came back swinging. The Bulls rebuilt around him. The fire returned to his eyes. The hunger returned to his game. But the world had changed. The opponents were younger. Faster. Stronger. And critics wondered whether Jordan could still dominate. He answered them with 3 more championships. 3. After tragedy. After retirement. After rumors. After doubt, but even then, even at the peak of his second dynasty, controversy followed him. Stories circulated about his intense leadership style, stories of him punching teammates, yelling at rookies, pushing players to their breaking points. Some called him abusive. Others called him necessary. Because Jordan wasn't interested in being liked. He was interested in winning. And winning, in his world, demanded sacrifice. Demanded obsession. Demanded an edge so sharp it cut anyone who couldn't keep up. The world adored him. Feared him. Judged him. And yet no one, absolutely no one, could question his results. By the time he stepped away again, he wasn't just a champion. He was a symbol. A global force. A cultural revolution. But beneath the legend, beneath the polished commercials and highlight reels, was a man who had given everything, mind, body, heart, to a game that never loved him back the way he loved it. Because greatness doesn't come without casualties, but the arguments about Michael Jordan never stop, because Jordan isn't just an athlete, he is a question. A mirror. A myth wrapped in reality. A man so great that people cannot decide whether he was a hero or a tyrant, a savior or a storm. Some say his gambling exposed a reckless side, a vulnerability beneath the perfection. Others say it was blown out of proportion by a media hungry to tear down the same man they once worshipped. Some swear it was a harmless escape from pressure so suffocating that any human being would look for a release. Others whisper about debts, late-night casinos, secret flights, and stories buried under the weight of his fame. No one truly knows where the truth ends and the myth begins, and maybe that's exactly how Jordan likes it. His leadership is debated even more fiercely. They call him ruthless, unforgiving, brutal in his methods. Teammates talk about him like he was a drill sergeant trapped in a basketball jersey. They say he punched teammates in practice, shredded egos, broke spirits, pushed players past their limits until they either rose to greatness or collapsed under the pressure. But here's the thing, the ones who survived became champions. The ones who endured his fire walked away with rings they could have never earned otherwise. Jordan never apologized for his intensity. He believed winning demanded sacrifice. And he was willing to sacrifice being liked if it meant being legendary. To him, greatness had a cost, and he was willing to pay it in full. His competitiveness is another story people still struggle to understand. It wasn't normal. It wasn't healthy. It wasn't balanced. It was an obsession, a fire that burned endlessly inside him. He competed at everything: cards, golf, practice drills, pickup games, even casual bets with teammates. If he lost, he didn't sleep. If he won, he wanted to win again. If someone challenged him, the switch flipped instantly. Some say that competitiveness made him a god on the court. Others say it destroyed any chance he had at a normal life. But whether it was his superpower or his poison, it was the force that pushed him past every obstacle life threw at him. The scandals, the controversies, the pressure, they all orbit around his name like planets around the sun. But what people forget is this: every one of those storms happened while the world expected him to perform flawlessly night after night. Cameras in his face. Reporters in his shadow. Critics circling like vultures. Fans demanding magic every single time he stepped on the court. Any other athlete would have cracked. Many did. But Jordan kept rising. Even when grief swallowed him. Even when rumors chased him. Even when exhaustion carved deeper and deeper lines into his face. In the end, Michael Jordan's greatness is not defined by trophies or banners or numbers. It is defined by survival. By resilience. By a refusal to surrender in the darkest moments. By a fire that rejection started, that grief fueled, and that the world couldn't extinguish. Jordan didn't just become the greatest player of all time, he became the greatest example of what happens when a human being decides that pain will not be the end of their story.